And now, marine weather around Alaska.
And moving into the marine bit here, let's look at tonight's weather again. Low pressure in the Gulf of Alaska and another weaker low up here over the Yukon keeps it cloudy and showery here across the entire area. Lighter amounts north of the Alaska Range, but rain tapering off, changing to showers over the southeast coast, and dry for Kodiak Island with maybe some clearing, and diminishing showers for Cook Inlet, the Kenai Peninsula, on up into eventually the Susitna Valley, dry to the west. And this trough kicking off to the east and southeast here brings a chance of snow showers or light rain and snow showers with continued gusty west winds there for the eastern Arctic coast. Winds lightening up here back to the west as high pressure starts to move in. And a big high out over the Bering Sea makes for light winds and dry conditions. This trough continues to drop southeastward here, keeping some showers going, but gradually ending for the Alaska Peninsula to the eastern Aleutians. And for tomorrow, that trough swings off to the east, so dry for the eastern Aleutians, high pressure over the Bering Sea for light winds and dry conditions. That pattern all the way up into the Chukchi Sea and into the western interior for a lot of sunshine again. Otherwise, next front starting to push into the far western Bering Sea out there to the west. This front, very weak here, dragging across the panhandle, keeps it cloudy with some occasional light rain there, lighter amounts than what you saw today. And the North Gulf Coast, showers, south central Alaska. Afternoon showers pretty likely, especially over the mountainous terrain. The Kenai Peninsula up along the Alaska Range into the Copper River Basin, and some shower activity actually into the 40-mile country there. And then for the day on Monday, scattered showers in the afternoon across much of the southeast interior, mostly along east and south of the Alaska Range down to the Kenai Peninsula. Persistent low there, gradually filling and weakening, but still holding just south of the Kenai Peninsula and the eastern North Gulf Coast. Some light shower activity, central southern panhandle, dry, and showers here with this trough swinging in to the northwest interior, actually from Norton Sound right on up along the northwest coast, possibly to Point Lay. But as you can see, light winds now and dry for the Arctic coast. This front weakening as it pushes into that area, high pressure, nudging that high into the southeastern Bering Sea there. So the stronger winds up here to the north, lighter winds and precipitation down to the south. And looking at the coastal water forecast here for the southern coast of the Panhandle, southwest winds at 10 knots tomorrow, 7 to 8 foot seas. South at 15 for the central coast and the north coast there. East-southeast at 15 knots. Southeast at 15 for Lynn Canal. Southeast 10 for Stevens Passage. South winds 10 knots for Clarence Strait. And for Monday, northwest winds 10 knots for Clarence Strait. Otherwise, the remainder of central northern inside channels will be looking at southeast winds at about 10 knots. Light winds here on the south coast out of the west and southwest. Light winds on the central coast from the south and southeast, and light winds on the north coast. East 10 to 15 knots with seas running 4 to 5 feet. Prince William Sound tomorrow, light north wind at 10 knots. Eastern North Gulf Coast, east-northeast winds 15 to 20. Northwest at 15 here for the western North Gulf Coast. Cook Inlet, Kamishak Bay, Barren Islands, all looking at light variable winds for the day on Sunday. And for Monday, that pattern holds. Light variable winds here from the Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, all of Cook Inlet. Light northeast winds at 10 knots for Prince William Sound. And the eastern North Gulf Coast, that'll be the windiest area here on the map. East-northeasterlies at 20 knots with seas at about 4 feet. Kodiak Island, variable winds 10 to 15 knots for the day Sunday. Alaska Peninsula, northwesterlies at 10 to 15 knots. And southwest at 15 for Bristol Bay. And for Monday, Bristol Bay, west winds at 10 knots. Variable winds, light variable winds, 10 knots for Kodiak Island. And the Alaska Peninsula, north winds 15 to 20 knots. For the eastern Aleutians, Sunday, north to northwest winds 15 knots. Light variable winds, again under high pressure here for the central Aleutians, 10 knot winds there. And then from Kiska to Shemya, small craft advisory is developing as that front out to the west edges eastward. Look for those southeast winds to pick up to about 30 knots with seas running around 7 feet. And then for Monday, small craft advisories from Shemya to Amchitka. Southwest 25 knots, south winds 15 knots there for Adak and Atka, and the eastern Aleutians northwest winds 15 to 20 knots. For the southwest coast and St. Lawrence Island, north winds at 20 knots for Sunday with seas running 3 to 6 feet. North at 15 for the Pribilofs, northwest 15 for St. Matthew Island. And then for the day on Monday, south winds coming up to 30 knots for St. Matthew Island. There are seas at about 10 feet. Otherwise, the Pribilofs under high pressure, variable winds at 10 knots. Northwest breeze at 15 for the Kuskokwim Delta coast, Yukon Delta coastline here, and St. Lawrence Island looking at west winds at 15 knots, southwest at 20 though for Norton Sound. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast for tomorrow, northwest winds coming down from today at 15 to 20 knots, northwest 15 for the central coast, west at 10 knots for the western coast, and the Chukchi Sea light northerlies 10 to 15 knots. And for the day on Monday, those winds swing around to the south here for the Chukchi Sea, 20 to 25 knots, south winds at 20 knots for the western Arctic coast, southeast 15 for the central coast, and the east side there looking at east to southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots with 2 to 3 foot seas.